And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFLW round review. I hate 12 game seasons because, damn it, they go too damn fast. We are 7 rounds through the AFLW. Sadly, only 5 more rounds to go before that lovely time that is AFLW finals. We have just ended the men's, but we are here to talk the women's competition. And joining me today, a new face, somebody that I have not had on the show. I've had a wonderful conversation with her pre-mic, an incredibly fun young lady who I've met online, who I cannot wait to talk footy. I have Maddie joining me from South Australia. Maddie, it is great to see you and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, just really chat some AFLW.
Yep, cannot wait. Cannot wait. All right, let's do it. Before we get into each individual game, I'd like to do a little quick roundup. So, your thoughts on the entire round of round 7?
Mixed down the blowout, really close in a second. Mixed everything weekend.
Definitely an interesting round, mixed bag of everything. So much fun, some incredible games of football, some shocking results, and an incredible comeback that I cannot wait to sit down and talk. All right, so let's jump right into first game, Thursday night footy. As we said a little bit earlier, the grand final needs its free air. Let's jump to GMHBA Stadium, a 7 point win by the Hawks, and another classic between these two teams as the Hawks get a win 42-35. Your thoughts on this cracking game of footy down at GMHBA?
Yeah, well, these two teams always put up a good game between them, and it was interesting to see which way it was going to go. But yeah, the Hawks obviously managed their highest score of the season, so that was good to see for them because they've kind of struggled in that area.
Yep, 100%. So maybe not putting up the numbers that they had been previously, but another win, finding a way to get it done. And Aileen Gilroy's return, cherry ripe. Love seeing her running around, and it's really helped Anya McDonough. I think Anya McDonough has really loved not having all that pressure with Eileen Gilroy taking a little bit off of her shoulders. So let's hop to Casey Fields, and unfortunately, the Suns and Lily Mithen come back to Casey Fields, and the Melbourne Demons greet her, unfortunately, not so warmly, with an 87 point smashing 93-6. Kate Hoare and the Melbourne Demons just continue with rolling on this season.
Yeah, just a 6 goal fourth quarter, if you don't mind, in that game.
Mhm.
And yeah, Lily Mithen was not greeted very well by her former teammates. That was just a thumping win, and I think it was kind of expected, to be honest, unfortunately. And Gold Coast lost a few due to injury as well, which, is a bit unfortunate for them too.
Yeah, they've had a horror run of injuries. The thing though is they welcomed her very kindly pregame. Once the game got
Yeah,
started, not so much.
yeah,
But that's to be expected. I don't think Lily would have expected anything else. I love Lily
no,
Mithen. She's one of my favorite players. I've said numerous times I want to know what she's made of because she's as tough as a $2 steak as I've heard the comment said over here, or tough as a cat's head or hard as a cat's
yeah,
head. Absolutely love Lil to death. I'm happy that she's went up and she's brought some experience to that team. Again, Gold Coast just a horror run of injuries this year. They just cannot catch a trick. So I'm hoping that they have a few better days with the season going on. Let's head to Windy Hill, and we darn near saw a shocker if you watch this one early as the Bombers jump the North Melbourne Roos, but the Roos in prototypical fashion come roaring back and get a 30-point win, 71-41. But there was a little bit of time there where they had the fear of God put into them because Essendon jumped them quickly right off the bat.
yeah. I think that's the thing with the Roos. If you can maybe, shock them a little bit early, that might be the trick. I think everyone's trying to work out what you can do to put them off, but unfortunately, they keep on rolling on, and it's 19 consecutive wins for them. Obviously, Riddell, Garner, um, and Blaheem Bogue she just keeps getting better.
Yep, 100%. She has been one of those where she was on North's list last year, never made her debut. She makes her debut this year and now is one of the top goal kickers in the entire competition. So is it, and North, just the rich just keep getting richer. Do the Ruse this particular season? Let's hump over
Do they
Icon.
ever?
I know. Unfortunately. All right, internet crazy fun sometimes is the way some of these shows can be. Let's hop right into the next game. Let's jump over to Icon Park where the Fremantle Dockers and Carleton Blues Lockhorns. Fremantle actually gets an oval to play on. Whoops, that's an inside joke there for the people that know it. Carleton Blues get a 9-point win, 32-23. The Blues get a scare from the Dockers, but the Blues get it done and continue a fantastically, surprisingly successful season.
Yeah, I think they're the surprise packets this year if you had to pick one. But yeah, unsurprisingly lost to North last week, but back on the winners list and yeah, in a close game as well.
Yeah, definitely. I like the Dockers. I think they've just been snake bitten a little bit. They've had a few games where they've just played an opponent that's just had a little bit too much for them, and unfortunately had those drubbings by Brisbane and North. But I think this is a team. Honestly, if we played a full schedule where everybody played everybody, I think this is a finals team. Unfortunately, I think they're going to get bit by the shorter season. Unfortunately, which stinks because I love seeing Turbo play. Watching her
Oh,
tackle
so
is
good.
ridiculously fun. I've said it numerous times. I think an AFL team should hire her as a tackling coach because she'd be perfect. All right, let's jump over to what I think is one of the stunners of this particular round. Let's go over to Winton Oval as the Bulldogs take Collingwood over their knee and spank them like a misbehaving child, 65-8, a 57-point smashing by the Doggies. I did not see this coming because this Pies team was starting to get on a roll. They had played some pretty good football. The win over the Swans, a tough, just fell short to the Hawks, but was not expecting the Doggies to hand their rear end to them on a silver platter.
No, I wasn't expecting this either. I figured it would be sort of a closer game than obviously it ended up being. And the young pups are all right. They're very exciting to watch, aren't they? And then obviously they've got the experience sort of sprinkled through there.
Yep, definitely for sure. And Ellie Blackbird, you beauty, 4 goals in this particular game. Love seeing Ellie play with the heart and soul of that doggies lineup. So absolutely fantastic. I agree with you. These young pups are fun to watch. They're going to be fun to watch grow. But there's some really good talent there. Isabel Pritchard's playing fantastic. Elizabeth Georgia Stathis off the halfback lines played incredible too. Brittany Gutnick who had a really good game in this one as well. Let's hop over RSEA Park where we saw a fourth quarter comeback for the ages as the Saints pull one out of their tail light, getting the 11-point win, 53-42. But I mean, going into the third quarter, they were down over 20 points, and Jesse Wardlaw and the Saints go, no, 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 not on our house, and pull off a stunning comeback in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that was insane. You thought you knew how the game was going to go, and then it flipped on its head. And Jessie Wardlaw, what a player! Sometimes you forget how good she is,
Yeah.
and then yeah, she was like, I'm still that good."
hmm Yep, 100% for sure. I remember I was getting ready to watch the Swans game and tuned in right about the time the fourth quarter started. I thought I'll get the end of this St. Kilda match, and I was a little surprised by the score. Power up like 21 going into the fourth quarter, and literally watching that Saints comeback, I was going, "You've got to be kidding me!" I was
Crazy.
gutted. I was gutted for the Power because I think that, and watching back the rest of the game, they played a really good game of football. It's just the Saints did what they needed to do in that fourth quarter, and once the momentum got against Port, they could not hold. It was like holding back an avalanche, and they just couldn't do it. Gutted for Port, but again, seeing Jesse Wardlaw and this young hungry St. Kilda side was fun to watch. That was an incredible game. So let's jump over to Unley Oval over in Adelaide, where I know that my lovely co-host is a huge Adelaide Crow supporter, and I know she's rocking her Noffy Century t-shirt, which again, before we even review this, huge plaudits to Noffy. 100 games. Congratulations, Noffy, one of the superstars of this competition, 100 games, and I hope many, many more. I love Noffy to death. She's one of my favorite players on the Crows. Just so much fun. This game shocked me purely because the form of the Swans going into this game was not good. Two straight consecutive losses had not been very impressive in either of those, especially that Sydney Derby, where I honestly I was a little disappointed in the performance at home, despite that amazing crowd. But they came over to Unley Oval and they punched Adelaide in the mouth and they kept coming. They kept taking. Incredible game of football. Crows get a win by two, 41-39. But if I'm Doc, I'm going, that Swans team, if they'd have had about 5 more minutes, this could be a different story.
Yeah, I was there actually, and it was like everyone was holding their breath for the last like 2 minutes. You're watching the runners, going out and telling everyone how long's left, and you just, yeah, you felt like if they had longer, they wouldn't have been able to hold them off. But yeah, it was a really, really good game, and the Crows midfield, I'm just increasingly impressed by the young players that we've got going through there at the moment, and that was a real highlight for me.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Seeing Brooke Boylow, Indy Rashid, I mean, Neve Kelly was incredible. I mean, there was nothing the Swans could
Sarah
do.
Goodwin.
She was fantastic as well. Hatchard may not have had her incredible like 2025 disposal game, but when she made impacts, she made an impact. Love again, Hatchie, another one, fantastic. Grace Kelly, both Kelly sisters, I thought had really good game, really strong games in this one. So yeah, no, 100%. All love to Nuffy. So happy for her to get the century, raise the bat as the cricket commentators do. So, speaking of 100 game players, great transition, coach, over to the Brisbane Lions for Richmond Tigers, where Ali Anderson as well raises her bat to the stands as she also gets 100 games in the AFLW, and the Lions get a nice win at home by 34, 54-20 over the Richmond Tigers. The Tigers put a little bit of a scare into the Lions, but again, the class and the depth of this Lions team is just so good.
Yeah, it's insane how they just it's not always the same players that just get up for them, but it's just the sheer spread of players. I mean, you've always got Ali Anderson and
Mhm.
Hodder, but then you've just got like it's crazy. They just end up there's a whole team effort. You do get obviously those that bob up each week, but yeah, and Ali Anderson, just an absolute superstar of the competition, and it
Mhm.
was so good to see those two playing at the exact same time. You didn't have one player getting there before the other, so it was really, really good to see.
Yeah, I thought it was convenient. I thought it was conveniently well timed that technically neither of them was the first. They both kind of achieved it at the same time. But
And
again,
both clubs 100 games as well, which was
exactly.
really good.
Yeah, yeah. It just shows the durability of both players, and it shows that how good these both of these two are, and both different players. Nafi, the contested, gets in, really fights for it. Ali, a little bit more of the out on the outside type of speed player, but both have won a best and fairest. So many accomplishments by those two magnificent women. Cannot wait to see how they progress. Let's see what number they get to because it's incredible. 100 games and counting. Let's hop out to the West Coast where this result, the win didn't surprise me. It's the score that shocks me as the Eagles get a 42-point win over the Giants, 75-33. Unfortunately, the Giants still have never won 3 games in a row as a club, but it's my story of the year. How amazing is what Daisy Pierce is doing with this incredibly young, talented, hungry West Coast Eagles side?
Yeah, and also with a whole bout of illness sweeping through the club,
Yep.
had players unavailable, and yet, and
Top up
yes,
Waffle W
GWS,
players.
yeah, and yes, GWS, I think if I had to, West Coast are above them in
Mhm.
terms of,
Agree.
that, but still, like, that's insane. And you knew that Daisy was going to do good things
Yep,
with
yep.
with that list, but yeah, so good.
Well, and seeing the West Coast Eagle, the gruff old West Coast Eagle supporters really latch on to Daisy. I think they have a reason to enjoy their W side. Unfortunately, they really haven't. The history of the West
Yeah,
Coast Eagles W side is not littered with success. Okay, let's just be honest. Considering Daisy has coached less than 2 years and she's already the winningest West Coast Eagles coach of all time. That's
yeah,
it is a again, West Coast fans, please stay with me here. It's a pathetically good record.
yeah,
That's how sad that is. That she's the winningest coach and she has less than 2 seasons under her belt, and she's the winningest West Coast coach ever. It's a sad record to have, but it shows you that they weren't fully invested. Now the Daisy's there, you're seeing old gruff, you're seeing standing ovations when she goes down last week, one of the weeks when they went down. I've heard out of WA several people saying that there's West Coast Eagles fans are talking about the W team now. It is not just what a disgrace it is that they're not winning, that they're down towards the bottom. They've been spooners before. No, Daisy has a lot of positivity in the West over the Seagull side, and I cannot wait to see her progress because she's just getting started. She's just getting
And they
started.
need that. Unfortunately, the
Agree.
men's side isn't doing
Agree.
particularly well, and they're probably peaking at the right time for that.
Well, and they've got so many good pieces to build off. Ella Roberts, I mean,
Oh,
I think a
superstar.
league best and fairest is in her future. I'm
Yeah,
not sure about this year. Again, it's one of those league best. You have to win games to be 3 votes. So I'm not sure
yeah.
if she's going to get the best and fairest this year, but she can't. You
Oh,
have Kayla
definitely.
Dalglish. You've got Lucia Painter. You've got the Wake for sisters. There
Yeah.
are some really good young talents on this side
Bella
that are,
Lewis.
yep, exactly. Charlotte Thomas. There's still so
Yep.
many really solid young players that Daisy is molding, and I cannot wait to see this grow again. The margin is what surprised me. I didn't surprise GWS. I think they put so much into these last two games. They were going to have a stinker, and unfortunately, they have it against a West Coast Eagles time. I think had one of their best games of the season. It was a worst case scenario for the Giants. Again, I want them to be successful. Cat Benisconi, I think, has been incredible for the GWS Giants. They're another one. I think that the national draft is helping. You're starting to see progression now from them because they're drafting more talent, because they're not just in a barren New South Wales market and having to try to convince a Queenslander or a Victorian girl to come to New South Wales. Now they can draft them at that higher point and get solid talent. And I think they've really done well for themselves. Can't wait to see it. So, well, Maddie, one of international recording sometimes is that sometimes you have to deal with internet issues. So let's jump to the burning questions here. I know a grin on Maddie's face as she says that inside section of the podcast here. So we've had two players achieve 100 games this round. How excited are you for the W to start seeing these numbers 150, 75 games being played by these incredible women in this competition?
Yeah, it's just so exciting. As I said, it's also doubled up to be obviously Adelaide and Brisbane's 100th games as clubs. So it was a really nice occasion being at Unley, and obviously the club celebrated Noffy, but also celebrated
Hmm.
the club as a whole. And I hope obviously Brisbane, I'm guessing, did the same thing as well as celebrating their men's premiership. But I think it just, you need to get through these milestones, and then we talk about the kids that are coming through. It's just a whole byproduct of that is you can only become what you can see, and just getting, more games and that into the girls, and they're just, yeah, it'll grow the league in general.
Yep, no, 100%. Seeing 100 games, seeing that century, and then now the cool part is you have that ability that maybe in the future you'll have mother-daughter, mother
Yeah,
son rules. Cannot wait. The machinations I cannot wait for. I think it's going to be incredible to potentially see the connections with the clubs very much. It is one of the rules. I know it's caused some controversy with some people, but I love the nostalgia of the father son. Now potentially the mother son or the mother daughter rule. Cannot wait for
yeah.
those days when we have that. So, all right. Unfortunately, in a 12 game season, unfortunately, it goes too fast. We are 7 games through, only 5 rounds left in the home and away. For you, Maddie, what's your story of the year so far?
Um, it might be sort of one that's sort of cheating, but I think it's more about those kids, those kids that are coming through, and you comp, you're not sure if they're ready yet, and they're playing against, you know, men in competitions, and sort of whether they're going to be ready to step straight into it. But you're seeing your favorite Zippy Fish, you're seeing Accenture, you're seeing India Rashid. They are just so ready to come into this comp now. And in some respects, they can be some of the better parts of some of the teams, and they're going to start to bring everybody along with them. And I'm just so excited to see those sort of players. setting this standard now, how they're going to sort of progress. But yeah, I just think they've been the highlight this year across all teams.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I said, we're starting to see experts calling it a super draft. And again, I think we're scratching the surface on super drafts because I think we're looking at another really good draft this year with some incredible young 18-year-olds coming into the competition next year again. But I agree with you. So many of these youngsters, Havana Harris has been fantastic up at Gold
Yeah,
Coast. I know Lucia Painter out at the West Coast has been fantastic. Sarah Howley at GWS, who was taken just before Zippy Fish, is incredible. Molly O'Hare, I know she was injured this week, but I think she's played pretty well for a really good Melbourne side as well. So no, the youngsters have been so much fun to watch. Cannot wait to see them grow and get more games under their belt and become better and better footballers. So let's have some fun. The third question in my burning questions is always about your club. So as a Crows supporter, how kind of going off that what we just talked about is you've got some incredibly young talent. This is not the same Crows team that's won three premierships. A good portion of those players are gone. You have a few, I think there's like four or five still left from the three premiership teams. So how cool is it to see these young stars like Indy Rashid, Boylo running around in the Crows colors and playing some really good football?
yeah, it's really exciting. Especially I'm a Sturt fan in the AFLW and seeing, I've watched Zoe Prouse and she was, you know, 16, 17,
Mhm.
and her coming into the league and growing. You mentioned Brooke Boylo, obviously she's a recent one,
Yep.
Rising Star nomination this week, so that was pretty well timed. Sarah Goodwin, even like she's been in the comp for quite a few years now. But she's only just sort of breaking into our midfield. And I think we're really seeing a transition at the club in that respect. You're going to, not have to rely on hopefully Noffy and Hatchie as much. You're going to have that layer underneath. And I think that's just really, really exciting.
Yeah, no, 100%. You don't have to worry about those veterans having to play well because you do have it. And India Rashid, as the Sturt fan that you are, I mean, you got to enjoy
Yep.
India for the last couple of years, and now you get to enjoy her even more in the tricolors. It's been incredible. Again, it was one of those. If Zippy Fish wouldn't have fell to the Swans, I would have loved to see India over in Sydney, but unfortunately, Zippy fell, and I'm happy for India that she went to a club. I think she supported Adelaide as a kid, so being able to play for your childhood club is fantastic. So that is it for burning questions. We hop to the part of the podcast. Coach takes over just the tiniest bit. And Maddie, let me explain. I do a team of the week every week to kind of portray some of the great performers, but I do it with a little bit of a twist. I lean a little bit more on goals, scoring and score involvements because I think unfortunately with women's footy it leans a little bit more towards scoring because they don't always have the highest scoring. Again, this is not a shot at them. So if you kick a goal as a defender, you're usually going to get in. So you may hear a few different names. So I'm interested to think what you think. Okay. We will start on, since I'm a coach, we start on the defense. Fullback line, we have Jen Dunn of the Brisbane Lions and Catherine Smith of the GWS Giants. Along the halfback line, we have Tilly Lucas Rod of the Hawthorn Hawks, Grace Kelly of the Adelaide Crows, and Meave Chaplin of the Melbourne Demons. In the center, we have at the ruck, we have Lauren Wakefer of the West Coast Eagles. On the wings, running in that space, a couple of Irish women who I absolutely love, Erone Fitzpatrick of the Carlton Blues. And yes, Adelaide's Neve Kelly absolutely tore the Swans apart in that particular game. We go through the middle, some rippers here. Kate Hoare of the Melbourne Demons, Ellie Blackburn kicks 4 goals in this game. Cannot not have her in here. And I got to give it Laura Gardner with 37 and a goal in this game against the Adelaide Crows.
Mhm.
She was incredibly good at getting the football along the half forward line. She may have only had 4 disposals, but 3 of them resulted in goals. Amy Franklin of the West Coast Eagles, the ripper that is Chloe Malloy of the Sydney Swans, kicking 2 for that. And Sarah Hartwig of the Western Bulldogs kicks 2 goals in this game in a fantastic performance by the former defender who's gone forward and looked incredible for the Western Bulldogs. Fell at the full forward line, 2 incredibly talented here. Jesse Wardlaw of the St. Kilda Saints and Taylor Harris of the Melbourne Demons. Let's jump to the bench. I do one defender, one midfielder, one ruck, one forward, and then a utility. Any position that I kind of put in there. My defender, Brittany Gutnick of the Western Bulldogs. Fremantle's Gab Newton is my midfielder. GWS's Alish O'Dowd, the Irish woman, is my ruck. My forward, Anya McDonough, also an Irish superstar, and my utility. How good is this as a utility? Ash Riddell of the North Melbourne Kangaroos. So an incredible team. Your thoughts on this? I know a lot of names really quickly. Your thoughts on team of the week?
Oh, nice with those names. Yeah, as you said, to for utility like Ash Riddell, that's
Don't not too many times that you see Ash Riddell put in the utility section, but oh, this was a fun. Like I said, Laura Gardner 37, Kate Hoare kicks two, and Ellie Blackburn kicks four as a midfielder. Man, what a hard to get into that central midfield. Sometimes I've had some ones where all five are incredible through the center. So let's jump to my homage to the fourth and long part of the podcast, and that is power rankings. So I do form for my power rankings. So it's the last 5 games. How many wins do you have in a row, and how many wins do you have in those last 5 games? So it's going to be interesting. And I think one's pretty self-explanatory, but we'll go through it all. At 5, the Carlton Blues, 4-1 in their last 5. Yes, a loss last round, but they bounce back and get a win this week. At 4, the Hawthorn Hawks, 4-1 in the last 5, 2 wins in a row over the last 5 games. Melbourne Demons come in at 3, also 4 out of 5 in the last 5 with 2 wins in a row. And Adelaide Crows are at 2, again, playing some great football. Again, 4 wins out of 5. And at 1, I mean, they're going to gather dust at the way they're going. The North Melbourne Kangaroos, still undefeated, still unbeaten. They will sit atop the power rankings. So that is it for power rankings. Let's jump to it. I know we are still early in the week, but we always end the show tipping round 8. So let's go to it, Maddie. I don't think I know the injury lists haven't come out yet, but let's tip this round. I think we've got some ripping games of football. We'll start off. The best part about chatting internationally sometimes is the fun of the internet. So we'll hop right into it. From the power rankings, now we go to tips. I know we're still early in the week, Maddie, so injury lists still haven't come out, but let's get some tipping. Let's have some fun here. Let's see how good we think we know these games of football. We'll start off Kinetic Stadium, like I said, a gorgeous, gorgeous scene. Too bad we can't see the ocean, most likely because of the night game aspect of this. Hawthorne, Fremantle, fascinating one. Who do you like in this one?
it's got to be Hawthorn in this one. Unfortunately, Fremantle haven't really played to the level I think that they can or that they're capable of. So I've got the Hawks in this one.
I do too. A classic one again. Fremantle staying in Victoria this week, which I think will help a little bit. They don't have the long travel, but Hawks really good. Again, will we see the high-powered Hawk ball come to play sometime this season? Because it's just not gotten out of second gear too much this year, but they found a way to win. So not going to complain too much. I think the Hawks win this one, but this could be a cracking game on Thursday night. Jump over Friday night footy. Unfortunately, this one could get out of hand as Icon Park sees Melbourne Demons versus the Essendon Bombers. Again, Melbourne on a roll, Essendon fighting through injury troubles. Unfortunately, I have the D's in this one. I just hope this doesn't get away from the Bombers because if it does, this could be a long night for the Dons.
Yeah, for me, it's the D's. It's just by how much, and I think that Kate Hore kicks a bag in this one.
Yeah, I think she has absolutely has a field day in this one, but it'll be fun to see her versus Maddie Prasparkas through the center. It's be a classic midfield rumble there. Cannot wait for that one. Let's jump up Henson Park up in Sydney as the Giants host the Saints coming off that scintillating comeback play over Port Adelaide. Who do you like in this one?
Oh, I'd like to think it'll be closer than I think it will be. I mean, St Kilda, it's hard to get a read on them, and the Giants are sort of on and off as well. I'll go St Kilda because of the form going into the game, but
Mhm.
could go either way.
Yeah, tipping Saints, but Giants at home, they're starting to find a little bit of mojo. Sometimes you see a little bit of a downturn off a team that's had a scintillating win. So can the Giants jump them early and put a little bit of fear? But St. Kilda came back. in the last game, so you never know. I like the Saints in this one, but I think it should be a cracking game of football. Let's jump down Launceston down in Tassie as North Melbourne's next victim. Unfortunately, maybe my Swans. As much as I would love to see the Swans pull the upset of the century, I think the North Melbourne Kangaroos are just too good. This is more of can the Swans keep it close for as long as possible?
I think if the Swans, put out their best performance, which they arguably did last week, I think they can definitely match it. But I think you've got to go north for that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's just row after row, assault after assault. It's just gonna be it's gonna be an interesting day. I'll be fascinated to see how the defenders stand up in this one. The central midfield battle is gonna be it's so much fun. Laura Gardner versus Jazz Garner, Ash Riddell. Cannot wait. That should be a ripping contest down at UTAS Stadium. Up to People's First Stadium as the Q Clash women's style as the Gold Coast Suns take on Brisbane. Another one, a little bit like the Melbourne Essendon game. This one could get ugly quickly if Brisbane plays their best football.
Yeah, and we obviously don't know injury wise how the Suns have pulled up this week, so you have to tip the lines with a certain level of confidence, I think.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I think this one could be one of the games of the round for me personally. Port Adelaide, Western Bulldogs at Alberton Oval should be a ripping game of football. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, well, I obviously being a Crows supporter, I prefer not for Port to win. Um, and I do like what I saw from the Bulldogs, so I might go for the Bulldogs on that, but I would actually think Port will win. But
Yeah, I'm gonna go against you here. I think Port Adelaide, home cooking, playing well. Doggy's got to go on the road. Still a young side. I think Port Adelaide played a really good game this last week again. Just fell a tiny bit short. I like Port. They play Alberton
yeah,
really well. I think they're going to be much more comfortable. It's a young Dougie side. Will a bigger crowd at Alberton Oval rattle them a little bit? I don't think so. They're still, like I said, they're still old heads. You have Isabel Pritchard. You've got Ellie Blackburn. You've got Elizabeth Georgia Stathis. You've got some experienced heads. It shouldn't be too much of a rattling experience. But again, this Port team does play Alberton quite well at home. So I'm going to tip the power in this one. I love that the South Adelaide the rivalry, the showdown rivalry is still very much alive. It's
very strong.
yeah, very strong. I appreciate that and respect that passion. So speaking of part of the showdown, we go over to Icon Park as the Richmond Tigers welcome the Adelaide Crows to Icon Park. I mean, for you, this will be fun because this could be another smashingly good win for the Crows.
It could be, but I'm also a very nervous watcher, so I'm always the pessimist. When it looks like it's going to be an easy game, I'm always, skeptical,
Fearful.
but I mean, we should win. Um, Unfortunately, if we don't, it should be a very disappointing performance, but yeah,
Yep. I Crows win it, and like I said, this could be a percentage booster if they play their best. This could be a percentage booster. Could Nafi go for a couple of goals? Could Hatchie go for three or four? Could we see Eloise Jones kick a bag? It'll be fascinating to see that. Neve Kelly out on the wing should be fun to watch. So yeah, like the Crows in this one for me, a fun one. GMHBA Stadium. I think this could be another game of the round potential as the Cats host the red hot Carlton Blues down at GMHBA Stadium. Fascinating one on this. Who do you like in this one?
I think I might go technically the upset and go with the Cats. Obviously, it's a home game for them. Carlton coming off a win, so they won't be desperate for a win like they were last week. Um, and yeah, it should be a good game between these two.
I like the Cats, but for some weird reason they've struggled a little bit at GMHB. Now, it also maybe because of the opponents. Some of the opponents they've had at GMHBA Stadium have been a little more difficult. I like what the Carlton Blues are doing. I like it. They've played really good football. You're getting incredible impacts from Mimi Hill, Sophie McKay, and Abby McKay. Darcy Vesio, they've come in, they've played the back, they've accepted that role. Tara Bohanna has stepped up in the forward line. Brianna Harrington is back to her normal self. back to that dominant ruck and go forward, kick goals. So I think the mojo of the Blues is a little bit too much for the Cats have been kind of up and down a little bit. So I'm going to tip the Blues in this one. But I agree. This is a perfect storm for Geelong to maybe catch Carlton off just the tiniest bit, especially down at GMHBA Stadium. So a ripping one there. And then out to Mineral Resources Park. I think this is fun. Two up and coming teams, both incredibly fun to watch. West Coast Eagles, Collingwood Magpies. I'm tipping the home cooking of the Eagles in this particular one, but I think another one that could be so fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I think you've got to go the Eagles, provided they obviously get some of their players back. They had quite a few out, obviously, due to illness. You don't know, obviously, how Slisha's going to, whether
Yeah.
she's going to come up this week. And I think she's obviously really big for Collingwood. So, yeah, I think you've got to go for the Eagles in that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hate seeing players injured, but unfortunately, I have a hard time seeing Ruby getting up for this particular, and the long travel to Perth doesn't help that much either.
No,
So, all right, Maddie, that is it. That is all 9 games tipped. We've fought through internet issues, we've fought through the fun, but it has been a fantastic chat. I really appreciate you hopping on the podcast. It is great to sit down and to be able to chat with you. I know I met you through Ali Collette. I saw some of your work that you've done. It has been so much fun to chat with you. Thank you so much for hopping on the podcast.
no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this episode of Donnie's Disposals. Again, if you like what you were listening to, this old American chatting the game that is Australian rules football, please like and subscribe. And again, keep track, more footy coverage coming because we've got final review shows. The VFL, the Waffle, and the Sandful, they're done. All of the games have been played. We have review shows coming up soon, so keep an eye out as not only we have more W, we have an AFL Grand Final and Finals to review, and as I said, VFL, Waffle, and Sample shows to end the year. We're getting down to that time of the year where I have less and less to keep me entertained when it comes to the footy. So that'll do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.